That's right. This is the top 20 video game music themes. Our subject this week is castles and shrines. The tracks have been chosen by Xenmas, Rudi, Prince, Longbow, Claudio, Steve, Kris, and Lachlan. Our Lord and Savior has decided to come in and drop a few suggestions. This, of course, is from Super Mario World, the castle theme. That part gets me every time, and it has for the past 30 years. That's a long time for something to be in your life. There are a few things in my life that have been around as long as this theme that still move me. Better compete with this, Mom! Alright, let's get to our first selection from you guys. First up, chosen by Xenmas from Tales of Vesperia. This is The World Stolen by a Finger. All right, that was The World Stolen by a Finger, and it plays in the temple or shrine of Zaude. I mean, it's got a killer bass line. I just think it really, really pounds nicely, and those chords are just like really reaching in that repeating sort of like crystally figure that Prince very eloquently described as being in a mine surrounded by glittering gems. It's just like so hopeful and so emotional. And then it has this thing where it's kind of going up a little bit and then coming down a bit, but it's steady, and you got that like it almost sounds like a hammer being hit, you know, like Maxwell's silver hammer being hit onto an anvil. So it adds to that feeling of being in a mine or just a place surrounded by a lot of metal. It plays in what you think is the last dungeon, so okay, so you're really gearing up for the end here. But it has that counterpoint and chord changes where that always are going to move me. Oh, interesting, so Risky Boots picked up on that too. Beautiful. Reminds you of Parasite Eve. Now, speaking of Risky Boots, they need to get around to this game. I'm the same. I've bought a lot of these Tales of games, Claudio, and have only played Xillia 1 and half of 2 and half of Berseria. But I'd love to give Vesperia a shot and Symphonia and jump into those. But we won't be doing that right now. Right now, we'll be moving on to the next song. Next up, chosen by Rudi. This is from the wonderful Eco. This is Castle in the Mist by Michiru Oshima. mysterious castle theme, they use that. I don't know what stringed instrument it is, but it really sounds like some kind of maybe like multiple stringed octave instrument, like maybe a 10 string or 15 string, kind of like a mandolin or maybe like a lute, which gives it this old-timey, very old, like Renaissance or medieval age sound of like a guy going around dressed in pantaloons with red and blue stripes. And it's very sparse too. There aren't that many instruments. They eventually bring in a bit of bass, but they really let it build. They keep it, like Rudy's saying, very mystic. Yeah, simple melody, secluded yet wandering. Too peaceful is right. It's like watching a tragedy begin to unfold on an uncomfortable summer's day. Oh, wow. That is deep. I just imagine Chris being in his kitchen making iced tea and his kids coming in. Daddy, will you come out and play? Not today. Today's one of those ones where it feels like I'm watching a tragedy unfold on a summer's day. You're weird, Daddy. Next up, we have a Prince pick. This is from Persona, I believe 1, The Dungeon Ice Castle, composed by Hidehito Aoki. Wow. Man, that is really, really nice. Yeah, I agree with Big Boss and Chris that it sounds like you're sneaking around or an infiltration. I really love where that last snare hit lands in the rhythm. They always leave a lot of empty space there, and it just gives so much effect. It's got kind of a like a late 80s, early 90s sort of groove in terms of the reverb on the snare drums. And to me, it sounds very dark, but also knowable. Like it's supposed to be kind of dark and creepy bit, but not actually scary. More just, it's still intriguing and it's still welcoming, even if it is sort of dark. And I really love when it builds and it starts doing those hits, those bam, 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 and then it flips them and does them backwards, and then it just sort of overloads you with both of them overlapping. Really cool composition. Oh, and an amazing bass line. Next up, we have a longbow track from Trails of Cold Steel, as usual. This is Castle of the Saint, composed by Takahiro Unisuga. This is a really bloody beautiful track. It didn't feel like waltz time or a 6/8 or even a 12/8 at the beginning. The first few notes I thought it was going to be in more of a 4/4, so then when the percussion comes in and you feel the rhythm, it sort of threw me a bit in a nice way. We got more mystical mystery out of these castle themes. I like that delayed shaker, that wide open, sounds like a harp arpeggio, and that arpeggio works really well over so many different chord changes, so it just takes you on a really beautiful journey. And it does have a very light, mystical feel. There's not a lot of heavy percussion or bass. Everything is very airy. Even like the synths are a glassy FM synth kind of sound. Yeah, the harp does make it feel like a Sky Castle vibe. And like Prince was saying, if you were talking to a maiden in a customization kind of thing, it's sort of like there's no combat. Everything, it feels almost like you could put your hand right through the music. It's like it's not quite there. It's really beautiful. Could listen to this all day. We have a classic coming, chosen by Claudio from The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This is Hyrule Castle, composed by Koji Kondo. Wow, classic theme. We don't actually get to listen to a lot of Koji Kondo on the show, so that's nice because he's just so damn good. I love the way they have the timpani with the horns at the same time. Bam, 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 bam. Really gives this weight, this really kind of like blustering heaviness to it. The B section a little less straightforward. Definitely sounds like you're infiltrating a castle like Steve had mentioned. Sounds like a time-space distortion is taking place in the final dungeon, which uses it as a gimmick. Oh. There's an intensity of staying focused, but you never forget you're managing your way through it. It does feel like a giant fortress because there's a constant timpani that almost sounds like cannons going off, like ba-ba-ba-bow. And the horns and the melody lines are very confident and kind of brash, like a row of troops sort of marching towards you, armored up, very organized, in control. It just sounds so huge. It also reminds me a bit of when you're boarding the airship in Super Mario 3, the way they use the timpani there. Boom, boom, bum, 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 bum. So it feels like a bit of a callback to that. Sounds huge. Well, why don't we go back even further? This is a Steve pick from Dragon Quest I, Dragon Warrior. This is the Tantagel Castle theme, the symphonic version, composed by Koichi Sugiyama. Oh, wow, this is incredibly elegant and very emotional. It feels like if you had a lot of money and you felt like you were just better than everybody because of it. If you really felt like you were royal, descending down the mighty steps, looking at the commoners, knowing you're descended from blue blood, which really means a lot of incest. Very haughty indeed. High-class ball, not as the main character that falls in love, but just part of the crowd enjoying the party. Yeah, it does feel like you're watching everything kind of around you. I think it's because... oh my god. I mean, like, the interplay of the different strings are just... oh, so good. So much counterpoint going on, so much call and response. It definitely had a different vibe from Final Fantasy. Nobuo Uematsu is a rock guy and a prog guy, and Dragon Warrior was very, very classically symphonic. Now, let's see what it sounded like on the original NES. This is from the channel Nico's 8-Bit Stereo. He does a pretty good job with NES tracks. He kind of widens them out a bit, but let's have a listen to that. You know, even though the orchestral version sounds so good because this is composed in classical counterpoints, so it's very easy to translate this over to strings. But there's something about this that kind of hits me a bit more. I mean, these notes really shine through. The 8-bit stereo guy does a really good job of adding just enough delay to soften the NES sounds and just to spread them out a bit. But it really does hit me well. I think I'd be blown away to hear this on an NES. A little less elegant and more play, yeah. Oh, here's another version of it. Now, because you don't have the real playing of a bunch of humans, everything is a little more hard, you know, and you don't have that sort of softened dynamic of a lot of strings hitting the note all like milliseconds off from each other too, right? Oh, but counterpoint is just so perfect of a solution for the problem of the NES only having so many sound channels. You just make every single channel do something interesting and talk to each other. Incredible piece of music. Let's bring it back to the modern times. I'd never heard this game before, or this next piece. This is a Kris choice from the Somnium files. The track is Shrine AI. Nope, the track is Shrine. The game is AI, the Somnium files. Composed by Keisuke Ito. Man, this is one of those games where, one of those tracks where just the opening notes, I don't know how they do it, but it's the way you choose it, and it can be so magical right off the bat, even with just a few notes. Just the rhythm you choose and the atmosphere. This music is so inviting into a world. As you can see, I guess it's some kind of a visual novel. Maybe like a puzzle game where you're doing some investigation. And this music doesn't have like a huge pace to it. It's got just enough energy to push you along. Again, it's more very like mystical sounding music, curious music, very Asian sounding as well. I thought for sure when we were choosing castle themes, we'd hear a lot more stuff like A Link to the Past, you know, big, blustery, designed to sort of intimidate people. But I think in later games, more modern games, you don't tend to visit a castle like your Mario trying to break in there and steal your girlfriend back, which makes it sound like Bowser stole her, but she went willingly. Gotta steal her back. Castles are more of like this reverential or maybe old or ancient thing that we're looking at. Next up, we have a selection from Lachlan, the founder of A 90s Kid, the man who keeps this channel going and started it, along with all of you, of course. Lachlan has chosen something from Hexen. This is Castle of Grief, composed by Kevin Schilder. On the Sound Blaster. Man, those Sound Blaster tones, they can be very limited, but if you know how to use them, like here they just use the softness of it, and I love those little keys. It almost sounds like a Rhodes piano, almost kind of jazzy, blah, 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 sort of chord clusters, and then you got this really driving bass that changes its rhythm frequently, and then the only drums are just like, almost sounds like your speaker's cracking. It's like an NES kind of noise channel. And you've got those really cheesy Sound Blaster horns, but when you're doing something so sinister and kind of demented, I think it works in it. But this is a long track. I mean, it's over 3 minutes, and it has like 4 or 5 different sections to it. Really nice, very, very moody. I love those keys. The first half of it could be off. It could be like a Radiohead B-side. But if you were underground, running around, trying to stay alive while all these monsters were after you, this would be... It's really cool because it's not like rockin' like Doom. It's a little more mystical, a little more dungeony, a little creepier. Awesome. We're coming on to people's second picks now. This is xenmas' pick from Shin Megami Tensei 4, Pluto Castle, composed by Kenichi Tsuchiya. Man, this is such a good creepy track. We got more driving bass and drums, and the drums have this like big swagger to them. Like whoever is marching along does have a lot of confidence, does have a lot of swagger. There's really sort of creepy chord voicings. The way they choose to put those notes together are sort of like quite off-putting. You get these little high note twinkles. And what I didn't even notice until the last few seconds of listening to it is that the bass is matched by this like higher kind of palm muted guitar. And they've put like a ton of kind of filters or chorus over it just to give it a weird like creepy sound. It's like everything's sort of dripping all around you, like you're going through the sewers or something. But with this big confident stomp at a nice mid-tempo for that weight to it. Pretty badass. Prince's second choice is the Leo Shrine from Persona 2 Innocent Sin. I couldn't find the exact composer because on the Persona 2 Innocent Sin soundtrack, there are 6 discs, and the video game music database is not really great at telling you exact composers. So I don't know who it was, but it's from the Atlas Sound team. Wrong. Forget everything. Yeah. That's what we'll do. Man, I really love the way that those drums were sort of quieted down near the end, and then all of a sudden, when they started doing that that sort of like delay loop that gets builds and really gets you feeling psychedelic, and then all of a sudden they bring the drums back way louder until they're almost overwhelming, and then the loop starts over, and it's like almost a very harsh cutoff of the loop, which can sound not musical in a more musical, fun-loving game like Mario or something. But for when you're trying to have this displaced vibe, it works really well. You have such a slow and dreamy groove, a lot of delay and ambience. Just slowly going between those two chords, sort of like falling into the chord the second time. Like really psychedelic and creepy and kind of like drunken, not drunken, maybe like drugged out, psychedelic, like your perceptions are not all quite there. And it's just going like achingly slow. And of course that, whatever the creepy voices are saying, which you say are a French monologue talking about a dead mother. Our next choice, chosen by Rudi from Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles. This is the Solomon Shrine by Hideo Nagata, arrangement by Yukihiro Jindo. God damn it. This is Solomon Shrine. Man, really nice. I like Prince's description, as usual, of it sounding like you needed to be saved by your friends in the nick of time. And I really feel that with the with that solo classical guitar. It's like a fantastically mustached individual just like swooped in on a rope, broke through the window, and landed with a rapier to save the day. My name is Alejandro Cotrandro. I'm here to avenge my father and kill you. Oh yeah, let's check out the original. I kind of wish there were real drums, though. I find the snare a bit fatiguing. You know, I wish I could take maybe like the bass and the drums from this version, but have the classical guitar of the other one. Oh, Falcom, of course. Sounds good. Next up, Longbow has chosen from Castlevania Curse of Darkness, The Abandoned Castle, composed by Michiru Yamane and Yuka Watanabe. definitely hear a Saturday morning X-Men cartoon theme, especially when those strings come in. They're like, whoa, we're not done yet. Oh man, this song just keeps building. There is over 5 minutes of it. I mean, a lot of the Castlevania music after Symphony of the Night, it was fun, it was cool, it was funky, rock drums, bass, and guitar, and you would blend in the symphony, but you'd also use some synths and some effects to sort of blend them together nicely, so it had this sort of 70s prog rock or 70s like Japanese fusion feel to it. It's really nice. You got like those different rhythms, the and then the sort of slower guitar. Man, yeah, if we haven't had a Castlevania week, we definitely could, or that composer as well, if it's one composer that has done most of it. I just don't see Castlevania ever working in 3D unless it turns into like a Devil May Cry thing. It's all about the precision and the speed of it, and the beauty of the castles and the two-dimensional drawings. Oh man, this is a lot more emotional than sort of the Symphony of the Night stuff, which keeps a bit of a colder distance from emotion and stays more elegant. Well, let's calm it down a little with a choice by Claudio from Okami. This is Dragon Palace Shrine. Some more airy mysticism, especially with those little sleigh bells they put in just at the end of that long phrase. I love that huge modulation it does about 30 seconds in, where it just really feels like if you're already kind of floating in a heavenly vortex, this modulation just brings you up to the next level. Staring into the eyes of God. God is a wolf. God is a woman. God is a wolfman. More really nice arpeggiated harp. Just a bit of flute. Not a lot of weight. The only drum they have in there is that really big one, but with tons of reverb to really soften it. Really nice. Next up from Steve. He has chosen Dreamy Castle Rendezvous, composed by Yoko Shimomura, and it's from Mario and Luigi Dream Team. Ooh, a best friend theme. That's a good way to put it. This is so fun, but also really confident. It's like a big, confident, fun. Definitely feels kind of cartoony or like psychedelic in the way that you feel like you're seeing a lot of different colors and it's in a different world. It doesn't feel like it's based in reality, but it's very fun and very confident. And I feel like with a lot of how Yoko Shimomura tends to do a lot of really serious stuff with her classical work, I think when she works on Mario and Luigi or these these RPG spin-off games, she's able to just really let go of all that seriousness and have fun, but she's still really sincere about the fun. And it's not light and stupid, even though it is definitely feels a bit out of this world. But of course, she's a master. She's become probably, I feel like she's become our most talked about composer on the show, just with the incredible breadth of work that she does. And her stuff is so good, it just shows up almost every week. We have a reason to highlight her stuff. All right, on the less polished side of things, this is a choice by Chris from Kingsley's Adventure. This is Hyrule Castle, composed by Alistair Lindsay. Jeremy for that. Really appreciate it, you popping by, and for the subs. And Jeremy's been here a long time with us, ever since that Blood game, Bloodborne, and way before that, actually. All right, this is an interesting track. It starts off with a very innocent kind of medieval sound, you know, more of that sort of like string, lute, harp, and then kicks into a more like formal royal trumpets and drums. So to me, it sounds like you're sort of Final Fantasy 13, all right. Like Kingsley's this little innocent fox, and then you're having the bigger instruments for the challenge ahead. And then, of course, because it's a Chris pick, we have to have the Chris beat. Because Chris is like an 80s MC DJ. Really unexpected, but a nice one. We got ourselves a second Lachlan pick. This is from Mario Kart DS. It is Bowser's Castle, composed by the lovely Shinobu Nagata, who worked on Luigi's Mansion, Mario Sunshine, Mario Kart Double Dash, Wii Play, Brain Age, and Animal Crossing New Horizons. I mean, what can you say about this great track? It's got squonky bass. It's got gloogly percussion. I like that sort of weird, twisted... It's almost like a pan drum. It sounds like every instrument has been just given a little bit of tweaking to make it sound a little more evil, but in a fun way. Like more driving bass. And the drums, I love the drums. They almost sound like they're very syncopated. Kind of like Latin, but it's almost like the drum loop is almost like incompleted, or it's not finishing the phrase where you think it's going to. And then I love these kind of drums here. It's almost like a djembe or something. You're like really deep, kind of like fruity sounding. A lot of great tones and composition. Very like unique track. Instantly jumps out and feels quite different. And does such a great job of giving you that imagery of a fiery, evil castle, but a fun evil castle. And that's the thing with the Mario music, is it tends to be really fun and genuine. And a lot of interesting ideas going on. Our next one is chosen by me from Breath of the Wild. This is the Shrine theme, composed by Manaka Katoka, Yasuaki Iwata, and Hajime Wakai. Man, what a great track. Like Chris says, mystical and reverential, while providing plenty of space for consideration and prayer. I love that. I love the way that sort of bell tolls with those crystally weaving synths. All the instruments sound really shimmery, magically metallic. The instruments all sound like they were created by materials found in the shrine itself, where it sounds like they're reverberating off the shrine walls. It's this big open space that's almost all like hard surfaces, ancient technologies, ancient but magical and highly advanced. And then these almost sounds like the bagpipes for this lead instrument that finally comes in near the end. Just to sort of wail away, almost like a bird. Yeah, like Chris was saying, there's not a lot of tracks and not a lot of music on the soundtrack, but it works so well for something you're gonna have to do repetitively, unless you're Prince. Our penultimate track, chosen by Steve from Zelda 2. This is the temple theme, the Smash version, composed by Koji Kondo. No. That's not it. Here it is. Man, I've loved this track for a really long time. It's probably one of the best parts of Zelda 2. It's so magical. It just really creates its own sort of world with the melodies and the scales that it chooses. And just how confident it uses those riffs and those rhythms. It's fun to hear the Smash version with a bit more rock and energy behind it. But it definitely has enough of that momentum and energy on its own in just the NES version. I like the scale choices, give it a feeling like you're visiting a temple in a far-off land, which sounds a little different than what you normally hear in Zelda and what you've been hearing when you've been on the world map. And I love this proggy bit, which alludes to how technically difficult this game is. Because in the first Zelda, it was top-down, but it was sort of three-dimensional in a way. You could go around enemies. In Zelda 2, enemies come at you, and there is no choice. You have to fight them. They're coming right at you, and they're blocking high and low, and they're attacking high and low, and maybe you can jump over them, but they can jump too, and it's terrifying. Zelda 2 is so ahead of its time. You can see the influence it had over Dark Souls in terms of the leveling system and really making that stuff weighty, those choices. And just the whole... I have the same face when I play Bloodborne as when I play Zelda 2, because I'm terrified I'm going to lose all of my resources, and then all of a sudden a jumping fox dressed up in armor comes bounding towards you, and you run for your life. Beautiful. I mean, the original is great. But I think the Smash theme does a really good job of opening it up. But I do like those NES sounds. I think they just work really well, where they actually feel so much of a part of the game. They feel like sound effects in a way. The way they just kind of sit there and then reverberate. That's like kind of wavering makes it really feel like a sound effect. It feels like it's in the game. Our last track chosen by Claudio from Tales of Vesperia. Again, 1000 Year of the Blastia, composed by motoi sakuraba and hibiki aoyama. Chords of those big, soft, glassy synths are just, oh, they're so emotional immediately. That fretless bass, it's just like you're taking a bath in heavenly juice, heavenly milk, soaking into all your pores and washing away your sins while you play 60 hours of an RPG. Sounds like you're in an underground cave that leads to a holy ground. Yeah. Beautiful. Another heavenly track that we've heard that fits a shrine very well. It's like a safe place. You think of sort of water and spirituality and respect and mysticism, where magic meets reality, where magic meets the imagination or whatever, the human spirit. It's got just enough energy to keep it going. Oh man, all the chords are just so like kind of reverential to each other. Beautiful. Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is where your story ends. If you'd like to join, you can. If there's a link to the Discord, you can join our group there and you can submit your own songs you want to hear. You can vote on the episodes that we're going to be doing. Also, I'd like to bring back Hear the Song, Guess the Game. Maybe we could do that on Saturdays or something. Or pick a day of the week. Everybody will be on Twitch, so they'll have the same delay. We used to do it on, like, when I was restreaming and Lena had the advantage of everybody, that cheater. But, yeah, I'm thinking maybe we could do that on Saturday or Sunday, or we'll pick a day and a time to do it. I think you guys would be the best people to do it with. So goodbye, YouTube. Thank you. And if you're on YouTube and you don't see a Discord link in the description, all you gotta do is ask, and I'll give it to you. Bye.